The news of the day and a special guest who's got a special message, sort of.
The Dan York State of Mind program is brought to you in part by Lookout Rhode Island and Takeo Comfort Solutions.
I wish the news of the day was better. This Brussels attack certainly has had all sorts of follow-up that's not so pleasant. The death toll remains in that low 30s area, and you never want to generalize when it comes to loss of life. There are hundreds that are still injured and some who are fighting critically for their life. So let's continue our prayers. Welcome in to Dan York State of Mind. It is a pleasure to have you aboard. We have the, this is interesting. We have some poetry tonight for you. And a local high school student who's won a statewide contest and who's going to compete for a national award, and he's going to read some of his poetry out loud. No, check that. He's going to remember it because he's got it all in his head. Good stuff. And we're going to meet his teacher as well from Central Falls High School, so don't go anywhere. Let's go to the rundown and check what's happening in the world. Yes, Brussels, you don't have to write a creative, rundown item for this. When we say Brussels, you think what happened yesterday. Headlines run galore, 2 brothers identified, a 3rd suspect is sought. Now the bomber in Paris is now, we find out, the guy that, one of the guys that was suicidal at the airport, I believe. Brussels terrorist attacks put heavy Muslim district and Belgian police under scrutiny because the relationship between the community and the authorities is something that is being heavily discussed. Here's a rundown of what's happened since yesterday.
Authorities released new information about the suspects in the deadly attacks at the airport and a train station in Brussels. They say the man in the middle of this surveillance photo is Ibrahim el-Bakraoui, and that he detonated a bomb inside the airport terminal, killing himself and many others. His brother, Khaled el-Bakraoui, is accused of detonating a suicide bomb in the subway. The other 2 people in the airport photo have not been identified. The man on the left is believed to have killed himself at the airport. The man in the hat slipped away, and investigators are searching for him. A raid in a Brussels suburb this morning turned up empty. Security experts say the Belgian police need to do a better job of community policing.
They don't know the community well, and they don't get the intelligence they need.
In central Brussels, people of all faiths are gathering to pay tribute to the victims. Children are writing messages in chalk, while others are pausing to say prayers.
There is a heavy police presence at this memorial and across the city. Many of the subways are back up and running this afternoon as people try to get back to their daily lives.
Here in Brussels, we are safe, and I think we will always live in safe place like this.
This morning, people in Belgium and in cities across Europe pause for a moment of silence to remember the victims killed in the deadly attacks.
You know, there's a lot to learn from this attack, and there's so many unanswered questions that are going to be difficult to answer over time. Last night on this program, we had some pretty sharp expertise. Mark Janess from the Naval War College talked about something that was included in this report, and that is that the neighborhoods are isolated and there's really no synergy.
You have the problem of integration. So that you have a lot of Muslims living in areas in which they are literally isolated from the community at large. And if you're not integrating the community and giving them a say in how well they do and in terms of prosperity and education and social services, then you're going to have a large group of people who are alienated and angry and going to be more vulnerable to the kind of messages that Islamic State sends.
Tim Edgar from Brown, who is a cybersecurity expert and has worked on both sides of the aisle in different administrations, suggests that the folks who do this might not fit the profile you think they do.
You need to identify the vulnerabilities that young men have, the crisis that they may go through. You need to focus on the right thing, which is not on people who are particularly religious or knowledgeable of the Quran. Those people know that the Quran teaches you're not supposed to blow up innocent civilians. The jihadists go after people who are criminals, people who have very little connection to their identity and their culture and their religion, who are alienated in a place like Brussels or like a part of New Jersey or Chicago, and then they go after them and say, this is your new identity, this makes you a good person.
And the struggle between the West and Islam is one thing that gets chronicled certainly almost comically when it comes, nothing's funny about this, but it's almost comical the way the campaigns handle this. There's also an internal issue, you know, within Islam that Professor Janess spoke to.
The idea is what the Islamic State is trying to do is create a clash of civilizations between the West and Islam. But in fact, what's happening is there is a clash within civilizations between the radical jihadists and mainstream Islam. And that is spilling over into the West.
Our allies in that struggle are precisely those mainstream Muslim institutions that are under attack by the jihadists.
That conversation can be found on foxprovidence.com in case you missed it. I think it's a good watch because we're all trying to soak this in and understand why. Not that it gives you all the answers, I can promise you. In the meantime, I think the president was way too casual yesterday. Lots of debate going on as to whether he ought to be in Cuba or not. Headline, here he is having a good time with Raul, his new best friend. Other headlines, well, the Republicans have problems with him being at a baseball game. I'm not necessarily worried about the attendance, but he didn't have to lay it on so thick. Here's CBS report.
An exhibition game between the Tampa Bay Rays and the Cuban national team in Havana began with a moment of silence for victims of the terror attacks in Belgium.
But what have you seen?
President Obama and Cuban President Raul Castro watched from the stands, looking out at the same field where Jackie Robinson played before he made his major league debut. Robinson's widow and daughter were also at the game. The shared pastime is a symbol of the two countries renewing diplomatic ties. Earlier, President Obama met with dissidents and addressed the Cuban people, encouraging them to determine their own destiny.
Even if we lifted the embargo tomorrow, Cubans would not realize their potential without continued change here in Cuba.
But the president's trip has been criticized at home.
This continued effort to legitimize this regime and its atrocities is appalling.
President Obama aboard an Air Force One for Argentina, where he'll meet with President Mauricio Macri.
You know, notwithstanding the arguments as to whether he ought to be in Cuba or not, whether we ought to be rebuilding a relationship with Cuba or not, does he have to do the wave? I mean, he's got we don't have that in the particular news story, but it's all over Kingdom Come. You know, he's having himself a good time with the wave and everything else, and there are 30+ people dead in Brussels. And yeah, I understand he's in touch, and I understand he doesn't want to kowtow to terrorists, but at some juncture, Mr. President, you want to show that you're engaged. And, you know, the wave, not so much. In the meantime, the campaigns move on. We have a wrap-up of what happened with the primaries last night.
Hillary Clinton was happy to take selfies with supporters after a Tuesday night rally in Seattle. She told the crowd she was proud to have their support.
I'm also very proud to have won Arizona tonight.
Clinton won in Arizona, picking up 51 delegates, but Bernie Sanders had victories in 2 states and added more delegates to his roster, but he still trails in the overall delegate count. Donald Trump also picked up a win in Arizona, but came in 3rd place to Ted Cruz in Utah. This will make it harder for Trump to gain the 1,237 delegates before the convention in July.
Now it's all about the wives, thus the term spousal damage, like collateral damage. So here's the tweeting fest going on between these two knuckleheads, Donald Trump and Ted Cruz now. Look at these tweets. Writes the Donald, Lion Ted Cruz denied that he had anything to do with the GQ model photos of Melania. That was a pack that I guess ran her semi-naked or naked photos. That's why we call him Lion Ted. And Ted responds saying, hey, listen, the pic of your wife wasn't us. You tried to attack my wife. You're more of a coward than I thought, classless. Isn't this beautiful? These two men are vying to be the President of the United States of America. Say that slowly to yourself. Back at home, a big crowd shows up. Look at the headline here. All sorts of gun legislation was on the hopper or in the hopper, including one bill that prevents those who've been charged with domestic violence counts from keeping their gun. The mayor of Central Falls liked that.
At the core of this bill are the lives of spouses, partners, and family. This bill also has the potential to serve as a tool for law enforcement and help prevent further domestic violence crimes.
You know what? I just wanted to focus on the number 400. Some 400 people without a rally, just because they're concerned about the legislation, showed up at the State House. If only 400 people would just wander into the State House worried about the $100 million we lost with 38 studios. If only 400 people would have rolled in and said, listen, Governor and Mr. Speaker, this truck toll program is not a really good idea for business and our reputation. If only 400 people rolled in on every major issue, think about how farther ahead we would be. Guns rule the day, don't they? All right, Mr. Dunn's done. He said, that's it. I'm done. I'm out of here. NBA is next. You know, I just wonder, he's got a year of eligibility. Am I the only guy in the room that can just say, hey, Chris, you want to stick around for another year? It was fait accompli that he was leaving at the beginning of the season. I understand that, and I understand his talent is so incredible that he's certainly an NBA pick, a lottery pick, no doubt. But does anybody tug on his shorts and say, come on, man, college is fun? Friar fans would certainly love that surprise, don't you think? All righty, a $20,000 prize is in the offing here. Check out this headline. I caught this and thought that this would be an interesting conversation. The Poetry Out Loud contest, and we have the winner here in Rhode Island. Welcome.
Thank you.
Andrew, I'm sorry, Austin. See, I'm sorry, I just, you know, I did that because, you know. Stop, Kev. Give me one.
Poem?
Yes.
Oh, of course.
Before we even start interviewing, lay one on me.
Gotcha. This will be Since There Is No Escape by Linda Pastan. Since there is no escape, since at the end my body will be utterly destroyed, this hand I love as I have loved a friend. This body I tended, wept with, and enjoyed. Since there is no escape, even for me, who love life with a love too sharp to bear. The scent of orchards in the rain, the sea and hours alone, too still and sure for prayer. Since darkness waits for me, then all the more, let me go down as waves sweep to the shore in pride, and let me sing with my last breath. In these few hours of light, I lift my head. Life is my lover. I shall leave the dead if there is any way to baffle death.
That's Lexi clapping. I got to soak that in. That was deep. We'll meet your teacher and we'll talk about the contest and what you're trying to accomplish.
To win.
Can I just mention that, can I come over here, Kev, and just mention real quick? I don't know how to make this transition. And then obviously when you see my fat face sideways, you know that I don't know how to make this transition. But I just want to tell you the Cumberland Kitchen and Bath Designs, I feel like writing a poem now about Cumberland Kitchen and Bath Design Center, about the trust issue. And this is what we're going to talk about here for 20 seconds or so. In fact, I'd like Austin to do it. I'm blown away by his rhetorical skills here. Can I just say this? I just had my kitchen done at Cumberland Kitchen and Bath Design Center. And when I told folks that I was going to do it, or Deb and I were going to do it, they were like, well, good luck with that. How long are you going to have the contractors in your house? I'm like, 3.5 weeks. As if there was no trust. Well, guess what? On time and on budget, they delivered it in 3.5 weeks. So if you have a trust issue when it comes to contractors, and you have a trust issue when it comes to the big decision to remodel your kitchen or your bath, be not afraid, I poetically tell you. Cumberland Kitchen and Bath Design Center. You can trust them. More from our poet. Pretty good stuff. Next. Contest website, and you see the headline on this, and Austin, you're up for a potential $20,000 prize, right, coming up in May with a national contest?
Yes.
As that poem that you just brought us was the game winner, huh?
Mm-hmm.
You think that's the one that put you over the top?
Oh, of course.
Yeah, and you got more, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are they as heavy as that one?
No.
Okay.
That's definitely
that one was woo. Congratulations, Deloris. This is your student, correct?
Yes, he is. He's my drama student.
Yeah. Well, there's no doubt. I mean, I said, I'm thinking, give me one. All of a sudden, I feel like I'm in a heavy-duty theatrical setting, which is great. You are an English teacher at Central Falls. Been there for 2 decades.
Yes, I am.
Congratulations on that.
Long. Thank you.
Well, listen, kids are terrific, and I've had more people from Central Falls here who knock down the unfortunate negative image that Central Falls High School has in terms of performance and academic this and the jewels that come out of Central Falls never cease to amaze me. So you want to reflect on that a little bit?
Yes, I'd like to reflect on that. I think that we have some of the best students in the state. I spend a lot of time with the drama students, shaping their speaking skills, getting them to use the right intonation, and I try as hard as I can to produce actors, because that's my thing.
Clearly.
Yes.
Are you both like on stage all the time?
Most of the time, yes.
When you produce actors, you're producing more than just kids who might want to be in the theater. You're producing confidence.
Yes. I'm trying to make them confident about who they are, putting them in front of people all the time, and creating, you know, a life for these students to be able to speak to anyone and never be afraid.
And look somebody in the eye?
And look someone in the eye.
Which they don't do anymore?
A lot of students do not.
No, they do not.
Because they're busy doing this.
They know how to go there, right?
Yes.
Never been good with technology, so prefer the physical contact.
How did you get involved in this whole poetry contest? What brought you into it?
Last year was the first time I participated as a junior for my English class, and I didn't do too well in that one as I am now. And this year, due to my drama teacher getting us involved with it, I got into the poetry. I picked my 3 poems, since there is no escape being one of them for the nationals and the states. But yeah, I don't think I would be here if it wasn't for drama class.
So you picked your 3 poems, meaning you've got a whole portfolio of them that you've written?
Well, I haven't written them. We take them off the Poetry Out Loud website, and then we rehearse them and we recite them. We memorize them, and then we add our own intonation as to.
Oh, so you're not writing these?
Oh, no.
Oh, you're borrowing the material. Okay. Well, I'm not even impressed anymore. You're done. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Have you tried to write poetry?
I have, and in my opinion, I think when I write it, it comes out far too sing-songy than these other famous poets, because I have such a different outlook on life than they do.
What do you mean? Explain.
Well, someone like Edgar Allan Poe, he sees things in a darker light. Sarah Teasdale sees things in a more serious realistic point of view, where me, it's more like, things will be okay if you're willing to put effort towards them. And I don't know if I could get as deep as the poem I just recited, but I could probably do a pretty decent one if I was willing to put the time into it.
What are they learning when they have to study poetry?
One of the things that they learned is cadence, that rhythm of language, of everyday life.
Taking your time.
Yes, taking your time, and the intonation that goes with each line, if there is rhythm in the poem. And I think that with each poem you learn about life. There's always some message that the poet wants to deliver, and sometimes it's not easy, so you have to really flesh out all of those lines, all of the images, personification, and then they find the message.
You work with them to find the message?
Yes.
Did you find the message of that poem you just recited all by yourself?
I found half of it. Of course, she helped me with it. This was a recommended poem from her because it's one of her favorites. But I read it, and I got really into it because I agree with the message from this poem.
What do you agree with?
I agree with the fact that, you know, in the end, we're all going to die. Of course, it's a sad truth, but we have to face it, and we have to love the lives we have as we have them. But we must accept the fact that in the end, it's not going to be there. So it's just getting over the harsh reality of life, and I agree with that.
Deep stuff for a teenager to try to swallow.
I think so.
Us old geezers have a different perspective on it. The mortality issue is something that is in everybody's head, less so when you're 17, right?
Right, but he's got a perspective on life that's unique.
Yeah? Well, when we come back, hold your thought. When we come back, we'll find out what that is. Fascinating. Stay with us. Performance pictures. This the winning day?
Yes.
So you competed against how many other out loud poetry readers?
13 from around the state.
Wow, cool. And so your competition is, the national competition is early May. Will you be reciting the same poems, or you're going to bring some more stuff to the table?
I think I'm going to stick with the same winning poems.
Yeah. You got another one you can throw at me? Are you going to blow me away with this one too?
Sure, why not? Let's go with a more theatrical one.
Oh, this is more theatrical?
Much more theatrical.
All right, game on.
I will be reciting The Conqueror Worm by Edgar Allan Poe. Lo, 'tis a gala night within the lonesome latter years, an angel throng bewinged bedight, in veils and drowned in tears, sit in a theatre to see a play of hopes and fears, while the orchestra breathes fitfully the music of the spheres. Mimes in the form of God on high mutter and mumble low, and hither and thither fly, mere puppets they, who come and go at bidding of vast formless things that shift the scenery to and fro, flapping from out their condor wings, invisible woe. That motley drama, oh be sure it shall not be forgot, with its phantom chased for evermore by a crowd that sees it not, through a circle that ever returneth into the self-same spot, and much of madness, and more of sin, and horror the soul of the plot. But see, amid the mimic rout, a crawling shape intrude, a blood-red thing that writhes from out the scenic solitude. It writhes, what mortal pangs the mimes become its food, and seraphs sob at vermin fangs, in human gore imbued. Out are the lights, out all, and over each quivering form, the curtain, a funeral pall, comes down with the rush of a storm, while the angels, all pallid and wan, uprising, unveiling, affirm that the play is the tragedy, man, and its hero, the conqueror worm.
More applause from Lexi. The vocabularies must be expanded in this work, yes?
Yes.
You understood everything you just said?
Most of it.
All right, good, because that's important.
Oh, absolutely.
You just can't read it. You better understand it.
Yes, because otherwise it doesn't flow and it doesn't make sense when you don't understand it.
So what is this life philosophy that your terrific teacher says you have? In 30 seconds or less.
30 seconds, okay. I just think everything can be done if you're willing to put the time and effort into it. You shouldn't just give up easily because something's not working out for you or going your way. If you have the ambition to do something, you should do it and not worry about the opinions of the people around you. Because in the end, your life is the only thing that should matter to you when it comes to success.
Nice job. Nice job.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
We'll catch up with you on your efforts nationally and check back in with you if that's okay with you.
It's fine.
Nice to see you. Nice to meet you.
Nice
Congratulations.
to meet you too.
Another great educator. Honored to have you. Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Final word when we come back. Stay with us. Listen, this poetry thing, read a book of poetry. It'll give you some pause. We'll follow the competition, but it ought to give everybody a little bit of reason. If you need to take a little time in your life and you just want a different perspective, open up a book of poetry. Anyway, coming up tomorrow, family quality of life as measured by the Freedom and Prosperity Institute. They got a new measurement mechanism for the folks who live here in Rhode Island. We'll see you on the radio at noon tomorrow on WPRO and back here tomorrow night. Thanks for watching.